Hey there, guys. I'm Andrew Chasen with Andrew Chasen Design, and I wanted to share some stuff with you, some wisdom I've learned. I got to thinking, well, who the hell am I to even share my wisdom that makes me sound kind of like an ass? But the more I got to thinking about it, the things I've learned are aggregated from all these different places. And I might, in sharing this, even get some comments that say, well, I learned this. You're like 80% of the way there. What if you just do this one little different thing? So it's good to be able to share what you think you know, so you can either pass it on to other people or get validation or some stuff from mentors, feedback saying, hey, this is a different, better way. So you might have seen these kind of things. Oh, and by the way, I'm using OBS to do my screen capture. Normally I actually show myself what my cursor looks like, but I had some problems, so I'm going with just the crosshair, the little caps lock. Yeah, look at how horrible that is. So I'm going with just a crosshair. So you might have seen some pictures of some stuff before, when you're just starting out learning how to draw, and it's like, okay, draw this same scene. It's like there's some mountains, there's some trees, maybe there's a stupid house in the sun, and oh, let's just break it up into a grid. And then you just draw, okay, draw these points in sector A4. This doesn't even need to make any sense, but the grid is dumb, but helpful when you've never drawn anything before. If you're trying to teach a caveman or a child to draw, that's not a bad way to do it. I bring that up because hopefully by the time you're done watching this, and what I love about video is I only have to explain it one time. Hopefully well, but I only have to explain it one time. So here's the skills you need. You need to be able to freehand circles, which I can kind of do. I do it a little bit better in my sketchbook, but you need to be able to freehand circles, and you need to be able to draw straight lines, and you need to be able to eyeball a shape and find the middle. And that's almost all you need to be able to do. All the other shit you can practice. Pardon my French. I guess I'm just going to be candid. So I also like Photoshop because I can get one of these skeletons done. The method kind of feels very Westworld, but so far, until I extrapolate it to other things, it also only really works for a fully frontal version of a character. But here we go. So let me just delete this, and you need to draw a circle and not have a puppy that's trying to get into your room. So we'll just sketch out a circle. Happy little circle. And there we go, we have a circle. So I taught myself when I was young how to measure things kind of by the sound or the feel of it. This makes no sense to some other people, and other people are like, yeah, that's how I do it too. But I like to go, and hey, so that one is like that's how far that is. It sounds dumb, but that's how I do it. So and so see, it's right about the same spot. And so you draw a circle like I did, and yeah, and then you chop it in half, and there's your first line. And then people, you've seen the other artists take that circle and cut it in half. Cool. And then here's where I would mess up, because if you're doing the Little Mermaid stuff, let me change the opacity down on this. If you're doing the Disney stuff and you don't pay attention and you think this is how Disney does a face, and in fact I told you wrong. Well, I guess I didn't, but here. Then you put your eyeballs up here. Don't put your eyeballs up there. Don't do that. Because that's how I used to do it. And then I realized when you stare at people long enough, then you start to realize people have a lot of forehead. Stop and look at real people. They have a lot of forehead. And so how do we make sure that gets represented in our pictures? Well, these divider lines, again, our eyes don't go here. So what else do we do? So we made a circle. We cut it. What's this? Well, we take this measurement right here. See, right about there. And that's our next measurement. And this is the chin. So this is our nose. Kind of pencil it in there. And here's our chin. And now you can see kind of like a big brow. We'll make this a Cro-Magnon Bert. This is our eyebrow ridge, and it's really important bone structure wise. Try drawing over the top of a front-facing skull. If you've got Photoshop, knock the opacity back and you'll see. And so that's really important for me. When I finally learned that, oh, the eyes go somewhere down in this area. They don't sit way up here because it's important that people have all this forehead space. It's a big deal, in my opinion. Zoom into 100%. I don't feel like I'm really using the video real estate to the best of my ability. I haven't done a video in a while, so if I ramble, that's why. All right, so let me just delete this and do it again. Repetition is something. There's something good about learning repetition, and I want to let you know that in my sketchbooks now, this is how I prepare a face. I draw this shit real light, as though I were in control of its opacity. So you get a circle, and you go, there's one measurement, and then cut that in half. And then what's this space here? Right about there. All right. So this is a nose. That's right where your nose is going to sit. And it's okay if you draw some faint lines. In fact, in my sketchbook, I tend to. And this is going to be the tip of your chin. So I normally draw a line like this too. Again, all of this is a grid or a framework. And no one came out that I know of and did a video quite like I'm going to do it. Because, again, this blends the technical and the artistic in my mind. I fully believe that if people learn the rules about how things are, anyone can be an artist. And so as you stare at this, if you go, well, if this is a brow ridge and this is a nose right here and this is a chin, you can kind of start to see a face. I can anyway. I guess art is half crazy. But the other thing I like to do, now that I have this done, is I like to just come straight down. Maybe like he's a bucket head. Maybe he's wearing a helmet. And just bring those down too. So here's your chin, your nose, your eyebrow ridge. So where do your eyes go? From here on out, I bisect things and I eyeball it. Photoshop's much more forgiving, you can undo, but in my sketchbook, I've just been eyeballing it, and if I'm a little off, then there you go. But you need to be able to look at a line and judge where you feel the center is, and I'm pretty good at that. I do a lot of 3D stuff. I can normally eyeball the center of a line, and so I'm going to say the center of this line is here, and the center of this line is here. And this is really important because I've taken this space, this square space, and I've just cut it in half. And those are good. What you might do is this one instead. So again, let me repeat. Nose, chin, brow. Take your brow, find this line, cut that in half. And this to me is like the side. This is where your eyes sit, is in here. Your eyes are going to end up somewhere in this space. They can't be below it, or that's really weird. And so here's some shit that an art teacher taught me. She said, you need to learn all the rules so you can choose how and when to break them. And I thought that was dumb. And then I drew a whole bunch more. I'm like, she was right. So how I teach you how to draw a face today is not the one way to draw a face. And in fact, I'm probably going to ramble on quite a bit and show you that there's a lot of variations that I'm learning. That's where you get character. You can do one of those doll maker things and just kind of give everyone the same generic face-ish, but change the color of their eyes and lips, and that gets boring real quick. So, all right, let's go back. No more of that. Backspace. Take this, cut it in half. There we go. And the other thing that I like to do, take this line here now, and if you can, and you got to get good at drawing straight lines. That wasn't so bad. Make a little wedge here. That could have been better. And half of that is just practice and hand-eye coordination. Look, it's not perfect, but it'll do it. So, got a wedge going on. You can start to see a shape here, right? A face. This whole volume, too, needs to be cut in half. So you find the middle of it. Probably right about there. Cut it in half. And then, like I was saying back here, find this, cut it in half. Cut that in half. I only know all this because I've been doing it. It'll take you doing it to learn how to do it. Let me show you some stuff, though, with a darker line. Let me draw you a little weird robot. There's a face right there. It's not a good face. It's not a perfect face. But kind of comparing it to Westworld in that regard, you can start to see how we would build with clay and musculature upon this foundation. And I'm going to subdivide it even more. So here, so we know our mouth is going to go here, our nose, our eyes, but this isn't true. This isn't right where the eyes go. Remember, we got this thing where the brow comes up and then just the cheekbone, right? But they say there's like 5 eyes across a face. And where do you put the eyes? We don't want to go above here. We don't want to go below there. Well, divide this one more time. And they say there's 5 eyes across a face. How the hell do you measure that accurately? More subdivision. So, we need to cut this, divide it right there. Divide this volume here. And the same on both sides of that line. And what have you done? Well, roughly, you have, let me box this out. Now a volume here and a volume here. And it's subdivided mostly correct. And again, we have a nose and we have a mouth. Here's why that's important, in my opinion. Because your eyeball is huge. It really is. Here's some stuff I'm going to say as an artist. Disclaimer, if you hurt yourself, it wasn't my fault. Take your finger, stick it under your eyeball softly. Stick it over the top softly. Feel your cheekbone. Feel your brow. Learn how your face is made. Your eyeball is huge. It sits constricted behind this helmet of bone to protect your vital organs. But your eyelids constrict, and your brow and your cheekbone window, they frame, that's the word I'm looking for, your eyes. But if we were to pull this off in the Disney Hall of Presidents or something and look underneath the Chuck E. Cheese and mask and see the robot underneath there, you've got huge eyes. Why is he talking about eyes so much? Well, because they're almost the most important in making the character believable and giving it actual character. So again, we're going to draw a character at rest. That's the other thing, is this is not much of an expression. An expression comes out of variation, in my opinion. So, some more stuff. Look at this line that you drew. It almost meets up. If you drew this in Illustrator or something, I bet that these lines would meet up even better. So yeah, it comes down here. Because again, this is your mouth. And if you read like How to Draw the Marvel Way, I'm pretty sure this is in there. My brother bought that for me when I was all of 10 or 12. Or other drawing books, they say that the edges of your mouth come to the edge of, or the middle of your pupil, which we know is going to be in this thing here. So this doesn't really look like a face yet. Well, that's because we haven't put a face on it. We haven't added much variation. This is just the underlying skeleton. I'm going to try and draw this one more time and not get into the theory of it. I'm just going to do the drawing and bisecting. And the order in which you do some of these steps is not important. It's just important that you understand that these are the lines that you need to make. Maybe you don't, but they're the lines I need to make to be able to do this and maintain my sanity, but also have some consistency. So bisect that and that. And I guess I could knock the opacity back a bit so it feels more sketchy. But I also like my pen to feel like a big marker. Can you even see that? Let's not go more than a third. All right, so we have a space. Those are about the... Yes, I really do this. Normally I do it silently in my head, but that's how I measure. I go, oh, it took me that long to make that sound. I physically can feel that through, if I'm drawing, that feeling the vibration, that sound of the paper, of the pen on the paper. Don't know if the microphone picks that up, but that sound is normally the sound. So, okay, there's my chin. I know my nose is going to sit on this line. And can bring that down. I don't want to make that too dark. All right, so give him a helmet head. And the helmet head thing is important later when I get to talking about character and variation. And then take this and bisect it, because we're going to frame in the eyes, and the eyes are going to sit no lower than this, no higher than that. And then we let's get the mouth line in there too, which is also in the middle of this volume here. So and then I take from here, and I normally draw, sometimes my Wacom makes that come out real thick, but I draw a line there. I try and get it the same. If there's a little bit of a gap, it's fine. The idea is this is a face. Now notice this is a very wedge-shaped face. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Find the middle of this volume here, and what I feel is the middle of this. Fine. The middle of this new one and that new one. The middle of that new one and that new one. And now you've just framed 1, 2, 3 eyeballs. And again, find the middle of that too. Because if you draw it well, your eyeballs go here. And that's just the ball. Unless they're doe-eyed or young or innocent, or their eyes probably will not be that big. And I'll talk on that here in a minute. So, mouth, nose. With the nose, you can bring this line down here. And that's kind of the widest your nose is going to end up being. And sometimes I even split this here too. And sometimes, again, not all the time, I draw a triangle here. But this is mostly finding shapes, getting into a rubric, dividing, simple geometry. Divide, divide, divide. Normally it's finding the middle of a thing and then making a line. Why would I do any of this? All right, so here's where I actually start drawing. Let's draw a female face. Why? Because girls are prettier normally, in my opinion. They're called the fairer sex for that reason. This is where you get into variation. This is where characters come from. The one other thing they're going to tell you in a lot of reading books that this here is important, and this is the line for the brow, or the eye line if they're teaching you wrong, and the nose. And it's not bad. You draw your ears here. But the other thing that I did tonight is I got to go and draw people in public. And people are different. I don't know if I just destroyed your worldview, but that's where diversity comes from. The more you stare at people, you're like, well, her ears don't do that. He kind of looks like a Nosferatu. Some people's ears come all the way out. Some people's ears do this kind of thing. Some people's ears don't go all the way down to their nose. Some people's ears don't go all the way up to their brow. So these minor variations are where you start to get different faces from. I mean, you might have seen the kind of thing in the funny papers. It's like, okay, here's Bill, and he's got a mouth, and he's got a square head. See how square his head is? And here's Bob, and he's got a stupid nose and a big eyeballs and a frowny face. See, those are two different things, but they both have eyes. Lord. They both have eyes, they both have nose, they both have mouth, they both have a head shape, but they're distinct characters. Why would I say that? I don't know. Maybe you have found my channel and you've never been told this. Maybe you're young. There's nothing wrong with being young. Let me blow this up, because this is where I get squinty-eyed and start to press real hard in my sketchbook. Let's turn the opacity down on that some. So, where do I start? Normally with the eyes. And here's some stuff that I learned about eyes. This video is going to be really long, isn't it? 20 minutes of me just talking out my ass. If I was smart, I would have planned this, but here we go. So, let's say you've got an eyeball, like I said earlier, and see this X here. So let's go ahead and reproduce that X. We know this is an eyeball, and this is where your pupil is going to sit. And what happens now is you have to make the choice of how to represent this. Let's say the person has their eyes closed. If that's the case, then the middle lid probably sits right about there. And then they can have their eyes closed. Kind of looks like a pucker. But most people aren't going to have their eyes closed when you draw them. So you've got to say a basic eye shape has 2 points. And it has some kind of sweep to it up here and some kind down here. And if you see what I just did, I'm going to do the same thing when it comes to lips. And I'm going to do something very similar when it comes to noses. And so deciding I have a baseline and I'm going to make a variant shape above or below or to the side of it is really just how you're going to keep drawing faces. So from here, let me draw this pupil in. Here you got to decide, if they're kind of more of a Jessica Rabbit type with the big eyelids, and she's kind of got those sultry, like she's half drugged eyes, then you actually want to not draw this, because this would be a fully wide open eyeball. You would draw this. Or that. And you might even come up here and trace along this round shape and See, this is actually starting to look like an eyeball. If it's a lady and she's got makeup on, then you might want to give a sweep out here. This isn't so bad. I've learned that these little details, whoa, again, I can't see because I'm not tracking my cursor, but these little things are details. And so I've also learned that the more lines you add, see, this isn't bad, but if we add a line here, it says something about this character. If we add a line here, and let's assume that this is a right eyeball. If we add a line here and we don't add a line there, if we add lots of lines here, if we add some lines over here, this is different. So my other major advice is just go to Google image search and search for some faces. Okay, so let's draw over here, and I'll put in a pupil, and that feels about right over here, and I'll decide. Well, I happen to have a random chick on my second monitor at the end of a YouTube video. Or here's some Daenerys Targaryen. Let's see if I can do this. I'm looking at a particular picture of her. There she is. Can you see that? And then I'm going to throw that on my other monitor. So you be the judge later. I'm not going to keep that up. I'm not trying to practice her either. Copy her. Just look. You know, sometimes I look, I'm like, I like that girl's lips. I like that girl's eyes. I like that cheekbone structure. But it's important to start with the eyes. And so come here and then do one of these. Not bad. And then this way. And then that kind of a Bruce Timm eyeball. And she's actually got thicker lines here-ish. And maybe we accentuate that. It's not too bad. Now, that wasn't so bad. Draw the other one. Can I do the inverse of all that? So, let's try. Maybe she comes out derpy looking. Let's hope not. About here. I know it's Photoshop. If I wanted to cheat, I could just flip it. But, yeah. And so it actually gets thicker as we go inwards. And then we did this thing here. Not too bad. And here's the other thing I have to say. All of this that I'm showing you, I've tried to do repeatedly. I haven't mastered this. You probably haven't mastered it. I'm just trying to teach myself some rules so that I create some consistency for myself. But if we're drawing Daenerys, then again, we've got this going on. Here's her brow line. That means that the brows are going to sit above there. She's got very strong eyebrows. They don't quite come to a point. But kind of like I did with the eyes, I draw 2 points. I say, okay, I want to start here, I want to end there. And she's going to have this kind of shape. And it's rather thick. And again, for that picture, this isn't too bad. And then for this brow, similar, not exactly the same. And then let's just cross-hatch that in. In my sketchbook, I fill the eyes in. If this were digital, I wouldn't. So this is starting to look like something. From the eyes, I normally go to the lips because they're the most expressive in my opinion. second most expressive thing. So sometimes you can put little dimples there if you want. Lips are two shapes, again, kind of on a baseline. And here's that line. So she's got, and some people will teach it to you like this, that you need to draw two little circles and then a pillowy circle. And depending on the variant of these shapes is how you will change things. And so I can come in and do that and connect these. And that wasn't so bad. And it wasn't so bad. See, now she's got lips. And you can kind of see a face growing out of this. But again, in the interest of variance, she could have lips that do this and then a really big wide lip. That's comically wide, but, bottom lips are attractive when they're big for some reason, kind of duck lips. I saw a chick today, she had really tall lips like that, and then a really thin bottom lip, and her mouth kind of was naturally open all the time because her lips were shaped that way. Again, people are different. So, yeah. As you stare head on at someone, you're going to see a shape. It's kind of a weird little M. And you're going to see this shape. And the variance of this shape helped define the nose shape, in my opinion. So she's actually got a shallow, and different styles do this differently too. I've seen some artists that just draw kind of a circle here, kind of a goofy movie thing. And so here's the circle, and maybe they make it incomplete, and that's not bad for a nose. And I've done plenty of those. But she's got this thing going on. Some people just draw that, and that's enough for a nose. If we're going to do Daenerys, because we are all of a sudden, like I didn't plan that, but she's got this thing going on, and she's got a little bit up there, and then you've got to decide where you come off of the brow and how you connect it to here. And so you could, bam, no, that was awful. That's a nose, but no one's nose is like that. So most people's nose, and no one's nose is quite like that either. Most noses are not a triangle. The triangle is here to help break this up visually and say, you've got to, do you do one of these? Some people's noses do that. Some people have a weird bump in the middle of their nose. Her nose, if I'm looking at this, kind of goes whoop. Not too bad. Whoop. This isn't a masterpiece, but you can see kind of what I'm saying. Based off of all these rules kind of coming together, this is how a face is done. Now, the other variant I want to show you is that in this space here, she could have a really weird, see what kind of face we gave her? Just because that's what we drew. In this space. And so you're going to put a point here and a point here. And what you do between there is going to decide the face sum. Now, the other point of reference, if you want to draw that out, is this is a decent line for a cheekbone. If you want to subdivide this, you could even say there are teeth in here. Back behind there, because again, we're kind of building on a skull. And she does kind of have these strong cheekbones, but if we're using some pen pressure, they don't come out they're not too strong. So let's give her a little bit of a cheekbone. And she has not a fat face, but she has a nice, round, not anorexic looking face. And it kind of comes out this way. And then, so it kind of comes up to here. And then does one of these. So, whoop. It's not too bad. Can I do the inverse of that? Not too bad. And the more I stare at those cheekbones, I hate them. But that's, again, another variant in character, because someone can have really just super accentuated cheekbones. Some people don't. And in fact, in this picture, because there's kind of a desert scene, she looks like she's a little dried out and has these things here. So, yeah. Normally I only draw one side of the bridge of the nose. But, yeah, so you can see... Oh, yeah. I'll do this, though. This wasn't bad, and I hope that if you start to follow along, you pick up these same rules. Get your skeleton down, your weird animatronic thing, and then start to lay shapes over it. And like I said, you know, you've got your eyeball. How do you draw eyes? Well, forever I asked, how do you draw eyes? Well, you realize the ball is huge. And see, look at how much we're not showing of the ball of the eyeball here. Even if we take these harsher details out, and even if we take this fold here out, and if we give her more kind of a traditional swept, I don't know, is that mascara? I need to learn more about makeup. But see, these are a little more Disney-fied, and Bruce Timm eyes kind of have that angle shape to them. The more you stare at eyes, you realize they come in a lot of different shapes. Asian eyes and different kind of Asian eyes, and this is not me trying to be racist, but you'll see that they've got this fold, and then they've got a different fold, and then how does it connect to here, and just all these parts, and it has to do with how detailed you want to get. I personally want my style to be somewhere, not really Disney. Bruce Timm would be good, kind of Bruce Timm inspired. I really liked Young Justice. I know when I've drawn a face in that style, because I kind of see McGann. But, yeah. So this isn't bad. I got a thing for freckles if we're going to mention McGann. So let's give her some freckles. Maybe a beauty mark. Hair is a pain in the butt. Let's look at Daenerys' hair from that picture. So the first thing I always do for hair is I find out where the hairline is. And again, maybe you subdivide this and you say her hairline is right here. Her hairline actually is up a little more. And the thing that I always try and do is find out where the part is, and so her part is a little off here. And then I'm not going to draw her locks, but here is a sort of representation of hair, and then hair has some volume to it. So the skull stopped way down here, but this is what's happening instead. This isn't Daenerys, but this is something. I needed something to look at while I talked. So, and then she's actually got these other things that come off. And we never did draw those ears in. So what has she got going on? Her ears kind of are more laid back. And so if they lay more back against the head, then you might draw them like that. You may choose to show this gap here. You may choose to say, well, if they sit farther back, then this line is actually going to be solid. And you can kind of bring it in round. Otherwise, if they sit out more, then you'll draw them out more, and you'll have to then represent this shape of the curve of the ear. And then there's another thing in here with a Y. I don't remember how it goes. If I was looking, I would, but it's kind of like that. But anyway, she has those ears. They sit back more like that. That's a nice simulacrum of an ear. Can I even draw the second one? What I do a lot of times as a cop-out, if I'm being honest, is I draw one ear, especially if it's a chick, I'll draw one ear in front of the hair volume, and then I'll draw the other one behind it because her hair comes down and does the thing that hair does. But yeah, so this video's gone really long. I hope you learned a darn thing. Is this the way to draw faces? Certainly not. This is the way I've been drawing faces because it's been working out for me. You look at these faces and then you look at faces of what I used to do. This is a huge improvement. I would not be ashamed to show this face to another human being. You can look at her and go, huh, I might have known this gal in high school. Whereas other faces are like, what happened to that face? Is that male or female? So, yeah. What do you do? So I guess the one last thing to talk about, which is kind of important, is we were talking about variation earlier. Let me turn down the opacity on these things. You can see how I drew this. Variation and expression starts to come in where you're like, okay, I know how to draw a base board I exist expression, but what if we took this line, and this is why I like these, this triangle. What if I moved this up here, and I'm like, yeah. What if you did this? And then her lip shape. Thanks, Photoshop. We do this. And kind of like that. Already she's starting to smile, but she's doing it on a curve. And I'll just use a thicker brush here, but some people then they'll do one of these of like, huh, what? And if she's raising one eyebrow, then the other one is doing one of these. And what if her eyes are really wide open? So if we go back to here, using this as our guide, then her eyes are like, wow, just real wide open. Not quite all the way on the bottom, but definitely on the top. And let's just do the little thing still. But then we go and we draw the pupil in ish. Hopefully I set this shit to music or something because it's boring, but yeah. Now she's wide-eyed but has an expression of sorts. And that's already a slightly different face. So, to recap, get your measurements down. Learn where your landmarks are. And learn about things like the eyeball being one of these, and however you decide to break up that space to frame in the ball itself. And the same for the lips. Again, we can have really big lips, we can have thin lips, and then another thin lip. I mean, people have all kinds of parts to their face, and so it's like, that guy's got a thin upper lip but a really big bottom lip. It happens. Two tiny thin lips. One of these big old Beavis mouth breather with a thin lip here. I mean, what matters is that you're making a decision. You're in charge. You're exercising your own agency to say this character, especially if it's an original character, looks like this at rest. This is their drawing. Noses are the same way. Fat noses, thin noses, crooked noses, some beak-faced noses, all sorts of stuff. So once you have these landmarks figured out and you decide how you want to bisect, come on either side of these lines or these lines here, It's up to you. Or this line here, and then this thing comes out here because he's got a really, maybe broke his nose several times. Look at Rockies, look at fighters. It's a Russian thing I think of. They got like a big bridge up at the top, and then it comes down, and then it's a little more rounded or beaked. But yeah, so my number one tip out of all of that is draw a whole bunch, and draw every day. And but practice this kind of stuff. Draw with purpose. Think about the numbers and the measurements behind what you're doing. Hopefully, over time, like I have, you see improvement. And then one day you wake up and you go, I'm not an amazing, but I don't hate my own artwork anymore. That's right where I'm at. So, always room for improvement. Thank you for watching this. It's going on 45 minutes of me rambling, but I haven't done a video in forever, and I wanted to lay down some wisdom, and I hope that you received it well. If you have any questions, drop them to me. I would love some interaction. Maybe I'll do a shorter video of this someday. Be well.